So, what projects are you thinking about next after you finish this one up?
Yeah, so I got to get book 2 out. I got to get that published.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said earlier, my publishing process just takes a long time. So, I mean, that book hasn't even gotten to beta readers yet. It's not really at that stage right now.
Mhm.
Ever since I rewrote the second one, I did a similar thing to what I did for the first one, right? Just total rewrite of it, slashed a whole bunch of stuff, whatever. But since I did that, I did another major, that's when I did my major revisions to the first book. So now I got to go to the second book and say, okay, what did I change in the first book that's now going to affect this one? What scenes did I include in book 1 that were originally in book 2? Because I did a little bit of that too. I pulled some scenes from other books to use in book 1, so because I wanted to establish an epic feeling world. So I just pulled some scenes from those other books too. So now I have to go back and see, okay, what did I change here? What did I change here? How does this affect this? I feel like there's some plot lines that are going to be revamped in book 2, just based on what I did in book 1. For the better, right? It'll make the book better. It's just, more work on my part to get it done. After that, it'll be book 3 is going to get the same treatment as book 2. And after that, finally, I will go back to the draft I wrote of book 4 back in 2020. And I will finish the series that way. I have a couple other ideas of what I'm going to do post. The series is called Echoes of Ono, the post Echoes of Ono. Nothing has been written down. Nothing's really been substantiated. But my only thought is I want to write something like really weird. So Fogbound, Echoes of Ono, that series, it's very, it's an epic fantasy. You're going to get, what you typically get from an epic fantasy. And it's pretty grounded in reality. Obviously, there's magic and stuff, but there isn't an overt abundance of absurdity or weirdness. Right? So I think my next one, I want to try and write something kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
just go totally off the wall with it.
That's right. Have these ridiculous creatures with lots of limbs, have this ridiculous magic. I'm not thinking it's going to be lit RPG, but it might have some lit RPG elements to it, if that makes sense. But we'll see where that idea goes. But that, I think I would like to have my next project after Echoes of Ono is done. Something weird, something kind of wacky.
Yeah. I feel like Sanderson's starting to do some of that in his work where he's starting to see how far he can push the readers.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I've thought that with Tress of the Emerald Sea with the Spore Ocean and stuff where I was just he's just keep pushing the boundary of how weird can we make it?
That's the kind of stuff I want to do.
Yeah.
An ocean of mushrooms. Beautiful. That's exactly that's the kind of stuff I want to write in the next one. Just weird. Yeah. And I just want to, maybe I'll hate it when I write it. Maybe I'll throw it out, but I just want to see what I can cook up.
Yeah. Really push the creativity and the bounds of that for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so here's a thought.
Okay.
What are your biggest challenges? So we talked about how you draft fast. You really draft fast. What are some what's something your challenges you as a writer where you're like, this is not the thing that I'm good at doing?
Yeah. So I am not the best at environmental descriptions. That's always been more difficult for me. My prose has greatly improved even since Fogbound. My prose has greatly improved. When the second book comes out, readers will notice an improvement in the prose there. Not that the prose in Fogbound is bad by any means, but we like to improve as writers, and I think my prose has gotten much better.
Yeah.
I've always had strong character work. Once I mastered the whole agency thing.
Yeah.
I think I do very good character work, and I think the world building and how I introduce concepts, things like that, I think is pretty well done. I've never been accused of an info dump, and I've never been accused of actually, you know what I'll say is I got a review somewhat recently that really applauded the way I went about the world building.
Yeah.
And they got it. They picked up what I was putting down of what I was trying to do. Like, I live by sort of an iceberg approach, a little drip. The deeper you go, more stuff you'll find, but it might take a little while to get there. I'm not just going to dump a whole bunch of stuff on you. That's what I do well. But man, those trees, those bushes, walking from one place to another, that's always been a struggle for me. And that's partly why book 2 is the way it is. So book 1 has a pretty good mix of adventure, battles, political intrigue, that sort of stuff. Book 2 is a lot more action adventure than it is war and politics. And for that, it sort of lends itself more to these descriptions, to walking here from there, to crafting these intricately looking places. Because book 2 takes place somewhere that's markedly different than book 1 did. So that's one more of a test for me to see like how much I've improved at that. Because I do think it's I shouldn't say the one place. It's a place that I do need to improve as a writer. But hey, if the first book was written perfectly, I'd never have anything to work for, right?
Yeah.
And I think, I'd say that's my challenge for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember when I first handed off some of my writing to people, and my brother I mentioned before, he was like, "Your fight scenes are great. Like, I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, I can see it. It's very vivid. It flows really well. But your people don't know how to speak. Like, the dialogue is horrible." It's like,
it's funny.
Like, he was like, "Have you ever had a conversation in your life?" And I was like, "Yeah,
man.
I just, that's just always
Love
like
it.
having a flowing conversation is just really hard for me in writing."
You know what? I think that's another thing too that maybe people might take for granted. Good dialogue work. Good dialogue work is not easy. It's hard to make a conversation in a book sound authentic, that people would actually say. That's something I did a lot of research on in my rewrite, on how to make the dialogue better. I think I did a good job. Obviously, there's ways I can improve with it. I think I did a good job with it in Fogbound, but it's definitely something that every writer needs to practice. I don't think it comes naturally, that dialogue writing. It's very difficult. But I love how you know what? You had mentioned something, and I was going to say how much I love it. The thought just escaped me. Man, it's gone. Right. Maybe it'll come back. It's fine, but it escaped me just now. It's fine. We'll move on.
I just think I think part of it is I overthink it. Like because I'm trying to think, how would people have this conversation?
Yeah.
But then you like overthink it, and if I would just write it, then it would work out.
Yeah, exactly. I thought of it. Fight scenes.
Yeah.
Fight scenes are so interesting. For me, when I was younger, my 19-year-old self loved writing fight scenes. Basically, the entire point of the plot was to get to the fight scenes. I think that's the one thing I really excelled at when I was that age.
Yeah.
33-year-old Nick, he doesn't want to write the fight scenes.
Right.
He cares more about the dialogue scenes, the drama scenes, the intrigue scenes, more so than the fight scenes. That, I think, I didn't expect that. It was like, fight scenes are awesome, right?
Right.
You watch Lord of the Rings movies, you think of the Battle of Helm's Deep. Fight scenes are awesome. But it's really weird how that sort of flipped for me as a writer, where now I'm so much more invested in writing those one-on-one intimate character moments rather than the fight scenes. So I don't know. I don't know where that change took place. Somewhere between me, like 25-year-old me and 30-year-old me, I think that a switch was flipped. But you would notice in no one's ever going to do this. If you were to read the horrible book I wrote when I was 19 compared to Fogbound, you'll notice that despite the word count getting larger, the fight scenes actually decreased.
Yeah.
Because I just thought the other parts were more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it has to do with as you get older, you just get more like I'm kind of the same, where like I still love writing a good fight scene.
Yeah, of course.
But I definitely I'm writing more now for like for the moments for people to understand what the story's actually about.
Yeah.
And those don't really happen in the fight scenes. They happen like in the character moments and some of the world building moments, but like that I'm writing to communicate that bigger theme. You know what I mean?
Totally get that.